Hey, good morning, buddy. My name is Jade Alberts, and I'm a small business strategist influencer from Calgary, Alberta. My passion is helping small businesses grow, succeed, and sharing their stories and knowledge is why I started the Facebook Live Telling It Like It Is. It is a live conversation, so if you do have any questions, post them up. We will answer them. And of course, if you see it after the fact, where it's posted on LinkedIn or any other social media platforms, do not hesitate to ask the questions, and today's guest, which is Derek Fraser, and I will get back to you. Today's chat is sponsored by Healthy Heart Sleep Company, Calgary's premier sleep apnea and CPAP company. They are locally owned and have 2 locations. Today's guest is Derek Fraser of Osborne Interim Management. Derek, thank you for joining me, and how are you today?
Doing great, Jade. How are you?
I can't complain. I'm loving the almost warm weather we had for a day or two there, and now we're back to a little bit of a deep freeze.
So it goes in Calgary.
Yes, exactly. So I know you and I have, I like to kind of say how we met. We met through the Osborne Intern Management Group, and then obviously with the Rainforest, and I've got to watch you in action, and I've been very impressed. So that I'm extremely excited to watch you, share your knowledge over today's discussion.
Well, thank you, Jade. I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you a little more in depth and to share my observations of the nonprofit sector and how it is here locally in Calgary, but also nationally and internationally. As my work through the Association of Fundraising Professionals allows me to interact with fundraisers from around the world, so I get a taste of what's going on, not just in North America, but what's happening and developing in other parts of the world, which is fascinating. Just when you think of what's happening in China these days.
Well, no, absolutely. I'll give a little introduction to Derek, and then we'll hit the question. So he's a seasoned and energetic executive who is committed to enlarging a pool of the financial resources to fund changes in our world of worthy of investment. Committed to a donor-centered approach to realizing impact and philanthropic success, Derek possesses an expert level of knowledge with years of service to many organizations and delivers quick results, stressing the importance of stewardship in all areas and activity, and advocates for it at all levels, fostering and maintaining a significant relationships worldwide through a genuine interest in donors, their families, and a broader philanthropic sector. He's also a member of the Association of Fundraising Professionals. As you mentioned, you're able to do it all around the world. So that being said, we've gotten to know each other, and I've been impressed with your dedication to this nonprofit sector. How did you become so passionate about it?
Jay, that's a great question, and I hadn't really thought of it until you had sort of proposed it. It sort of come as organically as I could possibly describe it. Just working every day. Initially I worked in independent schools in the Niagara area, in the Vancouver area, and here in Calgary. And that's a separate and different type of philanthropic activity because it's around education, which I'm a very big advocate and believer in. Grooming the leadership for the future is key, and giving them the tools to guide our society and make a civil society, continue to be a civil society where diplomacy and the democratic word is continued. So I really enjoyed my work in the education sector, but as I got out of that area and worked for organizations like the Mustard Seed, where I truly saw huge need around the affordable housing, poverty, homelessness area, that I was taught a great lesson there. As I describe it, my pendulum swang from being with all those who have great capacity to create change and impact, to those who had very little and depended on those same people that I used to work with, but now hope that they invest in a greater good, not specifically within education, but our community and our society, and trying to get everyone into shelter, especially recently here in Calgary. The radio programs talk about all the drop-in areas, churches, and drop-in areas for people to sleep overnight. It's so key because you could actually die from the cold that we've had the last, I would say, 2 or 3 weeks. So it was through that, I guess, experience of transitioning from education into a broader community understanding, and then working with clients within the homeless sector, as well as other areas, youth empowerment and development through organizations like Youth Central and Empowering Minds, these great programs that we have in our city. I've grown to understand the greater need to be vocal and be an advocate for the nonprofit sector, which, after government, it's the third largest sector, represents billions of dollars in investment through gifts and sponsorships. And, it's not just something someone does because they don't have any other work. I would like to say I'm very intentional in what I do, because it's, I want to help change the world for the better, bottom line. And so that's how I sort of got to where I am today. And I guess the passion comes from the understanding of what's out there. It's difficult to touch all the pieces of our nonprofit sector because there are so many divisions. So, I've gotten to learn about a few of them, and have embedded myself in them and promoting them for improvement, if at all possible.
And that is impressive. And I know when we sit around the table every week and talk, and I listen to, yourself and the others talk about the nonprofit sector and how it's working, and some of the struggles to overcome it. Kathy and I, we try and, do the things that we like to do, and get our kids involved, and donating time and some money to more of the children relating, something that's a little closer to our hearts, and that we give back. But it is amazing, and seeing how everything works, and you guys explain it is something else, and getting the word out there is so important. And I know some of the nonprofits that, will probably watch this, and there are a lot of hurdles, but what do you think the biggest hurdle is that, is for them to overcome and be successful?
Well, it's interesting, every nonprofit, and there's over, I think it's 175,000 in Canada, nonprofits, of which that 175, there's about 85,000 charities. So just the distinction is that the charity has a CRA status, which allows them to taxable receipt gifts that come in. They can give them a tax receipt, whereas a nonprofit does not have that capacity, but can be what we call a qualified donee, could receive money from foundations or organizations to support the work that they do. So from that perspective, where you start as an organization, Jade, is usually with some huge passion from people who want to make a difference. And by making a difference, they're volunteering their time, they're volunteering their own personal treasure without the benefit of perhaps a tax receipt for it. They're also engaging their friends and family to support things that they believe are important. I think that's the magic. That's the fuel of the nonprofit sector. And that's why we have 175,000 nonprofits and 85,000 charities. There seems to be so many of them that it's now so large that people have trouble telling one from another. So my view, I'm working with a young startup organization called the Terminator Foundation, and we're led by a very passionate and committed young woman who is bound and determined to change how young people coming out of addiction programs chart the rest of their life. And Terminator Foundation facilitates those young people to become triathletes. So basically taking away their dependence on a stimulant, a drug, and charging them up with athletic energy and commitment and coaches and support. And any of the athletes at any level who are on the straight and narrow, shall we say, will credit the athletic program that they're in for keeping them healthy, focused on their schoolwork, and looking for a true way to give back to society. And we've got these addictions that mar that experience for young people. And so Terminator, I reached out and said, let me help you, because you guys, I can see where you are and where you're trying to get to. I may be able to assist you. And I volunteer my time and effort with them. I've now recently been brought onto the board of that organization. That wasn't my intent initially, but they realized that the council that I was able to bring them will move them faster. So we're currently in the phases of trying to gain CRA approval for them. I look at the Terminator as a model of many young grassroots organizations that have some high-powered, passionate energy from people who want to support someone who has a cause they want to move forward, but don't have the tools. So I guess getting back to your original question, Jade, is nonprofit organizations who want to become charitable, I think, need to mature to a certain point where they can offer confidence and undeniable trust to those who will help them move forward, because they're buying in because of someone's vision, but they want to make sure that this is lots of scams, especially around nonprofits out there that take advantage of people's goodwill. And so young organizations need to surround themselves with good people who then, if you will, bring the integrity to the organization, and people believe, okay, they've got so and so and so and so and so and so who are doing this. It must be legit. So start there. I think that's very important, to craft a board who gives you a range of skill sets, but also the integrity factor. That's very important, because without that trust, then there'll be no money coming in, because people won't trust the organization to invest it the way that they say they're going to. So walking the walk, saying what you're going to do, and coming through and being transparent about it, those are all key things, regardless of the age of your organization. Organizations like Charity Intelligence has proven and brought to the table the need for us all to be accountable and transparent in the activities any charity or nonprofit conducts, and be fully disclosed in it, not hide it somewhere that you can't see it publicly on a website. Post your annual reports. If you can't afford an annual report, put on whatever format of where the money comes in and where it goes function, so people understand that you're dealing with it in a way not to buy a place in Palm Desert, but maybe buying services or products to help those you're helping.
And what a great answer, and kind of what I get out of that is one of the three things that come to any business: people, integrity, and trust.
Yep.
And
Right.
transparency, I guess, as well. I mean, which makes something, you just can't get away from surrounding yourself with good people. That is so important. And as you said, with the Terminator Foundation, there I met is it Venetia?
Yeah, Venetia.
Yeah, I remember you introduced me to her at one of the charity functions, and I would love to have her on as well one day, but that's for another topic. But I mean, that is impressive, and I got to watch how Osborne really helped UQuest, which is onset dementia, walk through that whole process and how it works with the government. And I mean, it is a process, as you were talking about, and that is impressive. I guess this might be a little touchy subject, and I don't mean to, put you on the spot, but I mean, there are so many charities out there that raise money for the same cause. Why wouldn't some of these charities work together to allow their money to go farther?
Jay, that's a great question. I was working on a project a few years ago that was the model of collaboration, and funders, AKA government, large corporate entities, foundations are, I guess, almost demanding that organizations that have very similar mandates look to work together. And I'm a big advocate for collaboration. I think duplicating services and resources under one roof is sort of silly. So if you have 15 different organizations, there's 15 different mail rooms, 15 different print centers, 15 different accountants, 15 different fund development people. Is there a model that we can create where small organizations that can't afford a fund development person, can't afford maybe a full-time accountant, can't have to go to Staples instead of have their own print center? How can we create a space where they pay their section, 1/15, if you will, of the best system that they could ever get access to. They could never afford it on their own, but they might be able to do it collaboratively within a structure of building. So I'm all over collaboration. I'm a big advocate for it. I look for it, and I bring organizations together who may not know about each other, but would work very, very well together, reaching both of their individual mandates and goals. So I'm very much hoping that we will, transition our sector to be more open to collaboration, not just in a piecemeal way, but maybe full on, where the resources to have a bricks and mortar facility on their own, and when the economy turns south, that the very ability to get to the payroll and to pay for your programs and pay your tax, your obligations. Let's leave it at that. Becomes an issue. So how can you come together and share space and be more efficient? I think is a better word as well. Collaboration and being efficient are going to be, I think, the words of the future in the nonprofit sector, because people are investing their hard-earned money and want to see results, and those results are usually an impact and outcomes that come from organizations that have said they're trying to end this or fix that or research this particular disease. We need to see the results actually coming in, that the money is working towards that, and not endless years of the same story. Well, we're getting there, So it's an interesting conundrum, and I think there's more and more understanding that collaboration can be very powerful, because if you go to government with 2 or 3 organizations, they're probably more apt to support 3 organizations trying to tackle a similar challenge than 3 separate organizations going after the same challenge.
No, I agree 100%. And we even had, thank you, Jennifer, and thank you, the Community Now magazine, who actually agreed with what you said and made the comments of how important and collaboration is key. So that is something that, I agree with, and I've heard you talk about before too. So that's a very great point. So what makes a good fundraiser? And, is it just the funds they raise, or is it just or what do they raise the money for?
Well, that's an interesting question. So, and over 30 years worth of observation has helped me sort of craft a view. And, I was very fortunate, Jade, to work within a component of the sector, which was education. And education and hospitals, I would say, if you look at any stats, have probably the greatest fund development revenue of any organizations out there. And it's really, connected to their constituency. And so when you look at, say, a university of any dimension anywhere, you look at a Harvard, you look at a Stanford in the US, a McGill, U of T, Queens, any number here in UC here in Canada, they have very large fund development staffs, and we're really looking at a privileged group of donors. Like, the group that you're going out to ask for isn't the general public. They're within what I would say a fishbowl, and who everyone is that you're going to ask, and their capacity potentially from public documents. They're the CEO of a company, or they're very senior in a big organization. It's very easy to find out through stock reports and circulars, their capacity ultimately. And so a good fundraiser is someone who can go to a small organization and make them successful. So going into a U of C, they're basically handing you, not just U of C, any university, a platter full of opportunity. Whereas a small organization doesn't have that fishbowl of past donors, future donors who are coming through the door every semester. So you have to really look at someone who can engage a community and fire them up for reasons to make change, to have impact. Universities do that. I don't deny them that, but they're really given a 50-yard lead over every other nonprofit, because they have an educated, usually well-funded and paid constituency to start with. Yes. Whereas a homeless shelter that are doing unbelievable work to change our society and raise the bar for everyone, so someone has a home and a roof over their head. The person trying to raise money in that constituency has a lot harder work because you're going to the general public, not within the fishbowl, but everyone. So how do you segment that? And my work at the Mustard Seed taught me some great lessons about true philanthropy. I'll tell you the story. A fellow who came in who was a former client of the Mustard Seed, and it was during a fundraising drive just before Christmas, and he came in and just handed and said, "Here's $20. I want to make sure that someone has a chance to get a pair of work boots." And they said, "Well, here, let me write your name down." No, I don't want to put your name down. And I got a pair of work boots. Let me get a job. I just want to give back a bit. That was the truest form of philanthropy I'd ever heard of. Someone who wasn't doing it for a tax receipt. They were doing it because they had been served and been given a hand up. And then he wanted to give someone else a hand up in the most simplest way, which was a $20 gift, which in context of someone who's a CEO of a major corporation was probably 1,000,000% of his capacity versus someone who makes millions of dollars and gives hundreds of dollars, if you get my drift. So those who have should give more, in my view, and those here's a perfect example of a middle-aged fellow who just wanted to give back because he had been given a hand up.
And that is a great story, and I'm glad you shared that, because I am, and I do it personally, and I try and pay it forward. And you always hear good stories about that, and even goes back to early in my business career, and when I started off, and people helped me out, and I try and give back to those people, that are just starting off as well, and so, whether it be money or knowledge or whatever it is, you just can't put a price on paying it forward and spending time or giving something. Or I just truly believe in that, and I love that statement. That is great. I have before we kind of yeah. Yeah. I do have one question that I'd like to ask, and I thought about it last night, and especially when it comes to these small businesses and people wanting to give back right away. Is it important for, I guess, these small businesses to have a social enterprise and give forward, or should they become profitable so they can make a better contribution later down the road? What's your kind of view on that?
Well, you know what, I'm a big believer that any company can have impact, be it an ability to engage their employees and doing good, going to their employees and say, who should we help, and take a consensus of their employees and maybe become the champion of that organization. Because, going and helping a large organization, they'll just be a small member of a larger pie, but you can go and find a small organization, become their champion, and help them on their journey. So I think it can actually help, Jade, as a marketing tool. Young business may not have a line item in their budget that says community investment, at all, but they're doing it in some fashion, maybe not officially or formally. And I think there are so many opportunities where they can choose an organization that they can stand out and use it as a different B2B sort of channel, if that's their market, or if they're in a consumer angle. Doing good can never be a bad thing. And so using it to attract and retain your current employees, I think, is important, because if employees feel that they're working for a great place, then they're going to work harder and come up with ideas to make you more successful. So deferring, getting back to your direct question, deferring, I think, may not be the best strategy. I think if you can figure out how to carve out some of your marketing, your staff retention, attraction budget, and fold it into utilizing a different channel. So, I think of Bill Brooks and what he does in the Herald and how he highlights different galas and fundraisers and third-party events. And if an organization can tap into that side, and all of a sudden, if you will, the leadership of Calgary who reads that page and sees what's going on, a young company can break into that area very easily by championing an organization and being there for them, helping them on their way, versus the older and established organizations that are always there with the leaders of Calgary. I think it's a marketing angle that is underutilized at this point.
Oh, and I 100% agree with you on that statement. And then when I work with my companies or my clients, I say it doesn't have to be money. It can be in-kind services. It could be volunteering your time at Habitat and spending a few hours a month helping to build a house, or whatever it may be that you can use, in sharing your story and why you want to give back. Because nothing is more powerful than helping others.
I agree.
And that is something that can be so strong. Absolutely. I mean,
the goodwill is unbelievable. You can't even measure it.
It's priceless.
Oh.
So what's next for you, Derek?
You know what, Jade, I'm a great believer in not drawing a line in the sand and saying, you know what, my age of manufacturer isn't going to dictate, my future, if you will. So I'm very, very intent on keeping doing what I'm doing, helping organizations move forward, trying to, have impact still in whatever way that shows itself, and helping move the nonprofit sector forward. I'm a believer in philanthropy. Fundraising is jargon. It's a work term for most of us. So when we describe ourselves as fundraisers, that's not really being fair. I'd rather say I'm a philanthropic enabler. I bring opportunities to people and let them figure out if it makes sense for them to be involved and how they'd like to be involved, be it through direct, cash investment or through in-kind and employee volunteerism. Like, there's multiple ways that people can plug in. My work with Giving Tuesday over the last 5 or 6 years has given me the opportunity to raise that movement's brand in specifically Calgary, but nationally as well. And the impact of Giving Tuesday, the Tuesday following the American Thanksgiving in late November, has been astronomical. The stats attached to that one day of giving, which has moved back, if you will, intentionally, the beginning of the giving season. So you'd be floored at how many people wait until December 29th, 30th, or 31st to make their tax donation for the year, whereas smart money would say make it every month. Spread it out. Be a monthly donor. Monthly donors are the lifeblood of the organization you support. If you can take your $1,000 that you give on December 31st and spread it across the whole year, they would benefit better by having predictable and ongoing income every month versus hoping they get something in early January. And so it's just a technique that more people, if they're able to, as we go to a more of a cashless sort of society, is very easy to set up. And I think more people would see the benefit of being, and they would be treated like kings, because monthly donors are actually the kings of the nonprofit sector, because your ongoing commitment month over month over month is unbelievable. It really is. It's a testament to your organization that you support, and to you as a donor that you care to make those arrangements on an ongoing basis.
Well, I mean, what a fantastic piece of advice there. I mean, that is bang on. I can't even comment because I can't even say it better. I mean, I've never heard anybody actually say that. I've always heard the give your once a year lump sum type thing. But I mean, it makes so much sense. Whereas, I mean, think of it, a household income. You get your checks, you pay your bills. You get your check, you pay your bills, and away you go. That, I mean, wow, that is what a piece of advice that is. That is awesome. I don't even know if you can top that. I always ask, the last question is what one piece of advice can you give? You've all probably given it, but I guess let's change that a little bit and say for small businesses and entrepreneurs, let's have one piece of advice that would help them become part of their, making giving back, paying it forward, or part of their business plan.
Well, I think to be intentional, not to do it because everyone else is doing it. Don't do it for the wrong reasons. Do it for the right reasons, which would make your investment in an organization as a small business, look at it as a win-win, where you're helping them and through recognition and partnership, potentially future, it may expand. You'll be able to expand your awareness in a different channel than perhaps you operate on a day-to-day basis. So I'm very intent on sharing that message, that I think there, from research done in 2007 by Imagine Canada on corporate giving in Canada, I think 15% of the majority of organizations approached were the top 15%, and no surprise, because they have the most money to give away. But there's this opportunity below 84% to 30%, where there's hundreds of millions of dollars of potential support that no one chases. No one goes over, if you will, to the Foothills Industrial Park and goes door to door and knocks on all these big businesses that are operating not in a glass tower downtown, but out in the, who have just as much revenue and ability out in the foothills, because it's out in the foothills. Specifically talking about Calgary. And so I think there are opportunities in every industrial park in Canada to be able to make a difference and work with nonprofits. Don't be afraid. Call us. We'll help you find an organization that aligns with your needs, your employees' desires to give back. There's lots of ways to do it. And just follow and copy, if you will, what some of the big organizations do, but just don't set up such a huge interface that it makes it a barrier for you to go forward. Do it simply. Do it with a genuine and honest desire to help and make a difference.
I mean, bang on, and I thoroughly enjoyed this discussion today, and I really hope our viewers did, and I can't wait for more people to see this, because it is such a topic that's close to everybody's hearts, and everybody's heart, and people talk about it. Whether they take action on it, I don't know, and sharing the different ways to take action, whether it's time, in kind, or money paid out on a monthly basis, can really help these organizations, and to make our world a better place is, people have to give back, and that's just the bottom line.
You got it. Exactly it, Jade.
Oh, I mean, I appreciate it, Derek. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your knowledge about the charity, the nonprofit, the philanthropy side of things. That is something that is should be discussed more in today's world.
Well, that's our hope.
Yes. And again, thank you to Healthy Heart Sleep Company for sponsoring this chat. They are Calgary's premier sleep apnea CPAP clinic. They are locally owned and have 2 clinics in Calgary. So again, thank you, Derek. I hope everybody has a fantastic rest of the week, and we will see you next Wednesday. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jade.